So for this new work, Filament, that I'm creating, I had kind of a head start because I had created a short work about 8 minutes long. I thought my original quartet was going to, at first I thought it would be like a brick in the whole wall and that I would just use it intact. But I have scrapped my original music, so a lot has changed. I always start with the movement, and it's I'm fascinated with shapes and lines and sort of like the calligraphy of dance and choreography and how multiple bodies tangle and intertwine to create new shapes and how forces travel through those. Somehow dramas emerge and stories emerge, but they're less of a starting place for me than they used to be. It's really about the movement as the first building blocks, and then it builds out from there. So I'm using works by the jazz pianist Brad Meldau, but alternating him playing straight Bach from the Well-Tempered Clavier fugues and preludes with his own interpretations of those same preludes and fugues. So we kind of go back and forth between something that sounds old, Baroque, and then something that sounds new but eerily familiar. Yeah, there's a sense of playing with tradition, I think, and it is a work on point, which is something I've started to do recently. So there's that sense of classicism, but how can you make it fresh and new again? So I'm calling this Filament. I wanted something, a title that had to do with thread, because that is something, that I've been thinking about. There were opportunities in rehearsal to ask a dancer to thread an arm through something, or like I have these long threads of connected bodies that are moving across the stage. And I was interested in that because for me, Bach's music is like that. I heard this pianist, Brad Meldau, talking about how if he's trying to memorize a Bach piece, if he gets lost, it's way harder to find his way back than it is in other kinds of music because of the way these things are constructed. And dancers have said the same thing about my choreography. It's like, we can't just start from there. We have to go back 30 seconds to figure out how we got tangled in the way that we're tangled. I worked with a lot of choreographers, but like 3 of them out of maybe 40-some choreographers that I worked with in my whole career were female. So I had a lack of role models, and I think that's maybe one of the reasons why I waited until fairly late in my career to get started. There's something about making things out of people, that the collaboration with dancers and being able to go in this. You can't do this with a computer where you sit down, well, I guess you could with AI maybe, but sit down and start asking it questions and figure out how pointed your questions need to be. So it's a collaboration, and because it's made out of people, it's unpredictable.